Admiral Kang Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Earth, they called it. Such a simple name for what should be an easy victory. His third fleet had conquered dozens of worlds before. This one, none had given them any real trouble. Distance to target? He asked his navigation officer. 2 million kilometers in closing, Admiral, Lieutenant Bae Soman replied. Her voice was steady and professional. This was just another day's work for the crew of the Eternal Dominion. Kang looked at the data screen showing Earth's defenses. There were none. No orbital weapons, no military satellites, no shield generators protecting the major cities. The humans seemed completely unprepared for their arrival. Sir, we're receiving no communications from the planet, reported Communications Officer Im Dong-hyun. They know we're here, but they're not trying to talk to us. This surprised Kang. Most species tried to negotiate when they saw a galactic hegemony fleet approaching their world. Some begged for mercy. Others tried to threaten them with weapons they didn't have. The humans were doing neither. Captain Lee Yuna walked over from her station. She commanded the reconnaissance ship Swift Talon, which had been watching Earth for the past 3 days. Admiral, the humans are strange. They go about their daily lives as if we don't exist. Children still go to school. Adults still go to work. It's like they can't see us. Maybe they're in shock, suggested Commander Park Ji-ho. He was Kang's second in command and had seen many species react badly to the arrival of superior forces. Some primitive peoples shut down when faced with technology they can't understand. Kang nodded. This made sense. The humans had barely reached their own moon. Their fastest ships used chemical rockets that moved at speeds the hegemony considered laughably slow. Their most advanced computers were less powerful than a child's toy. From any civilized world, begin scanning for military installations, Kang ordered. Even if they're hiding their defenses, we need to know what we're facing. The ship's sensors swept across Earth's surface. Cities appeared on the screens, some holding millions of people. Roads connected them like veins carrying blood through a body. But there were no military bases of any real importance. No hidden weapon factories. No underground bunkers filled with soldiers. Sir, called out sensor operator Kim Sora from her station. I'm detecting something unusual in the Pacific Ocean. Kang turned his attention to her. Kim was one of his best officers. If she said something was unusual, it was worth investigating. What kind of unusual? He asked. There's a large object buried under the ocean floor. It's giving off energy readings, but they don't match anything in our database. The main screen changed to show a map of Earth's ocean. A red dot blinked deep, beneath the water, far from any human settlement. The energy signature was weak but steady, like a heartbeat that had been beating for a very long time. Could it be a natural formation? Park asked. Some kind of mineral deposit? Kim shook her head. No, sir. The shape is too regular, too artificial. It's definitely made by someone, but not by the humans on the surface. This thing predates their current civilization by thousands of years. This was interesting. Kang had heard of ancient ruins on some worlds left behind by species that had died out long ago. Usually they contained nothing of value, but sometimes they held technologies that could be useful to the hegemony. How large is this object? Kang asked. Approximately 30 kilometers long, sir, and it appears to be intact. 30 kilometers. That was larger than most hegemony battleships. Whatever lay beneath the ocean was massive. Captain Lee spoke up. Admiral, should we proceed with the conquest? The humans still haven't responded to our presence. Kang considered this. His orders were clear. Take control of Earth and add it to the hegemony's growing empire. But the mystery object beneath the ocean bothered him. What if it was some kind of defense system the humans were keeping hidden? What if it was a weapon that could threaten his fleet? Delay the attack, he decided. I want to know what's down there before we proceed. Sir? Park looked surprised. We have over 800 ships. Even if the humans had advanced weapons, they couldn't possibly threaten a force this size. Maybe not, Kang agreed. But I didn't become an admiral by ignoring mysteries. Kim, I want a full sensor sweep of that object. Use every scanner we have. Yes, sir. The next few hours passed slowly as Kim and her team worked to penetrate the layers of mud and rock that covered the mysterious object. Gradually, a clearer picture emerged on the screens. It was definitely a ship. The design was unlike anything in hegemony records, but it was clearly built by intelligent beings. The hull was smooth and curved, lacking the angular design most species preferred. More importantly, it was giving off energy readings that suggested it was still functional after all these years underwater. Sir, Kim reported, I'm detecting life signs. Life signs? Kang moved closer to her station. What kind of life signs? Human, sir. There are humans aboard that ship. This made no sense. Humans had only learned to build simple rockets in the last few decades. How could they have built something like this thousands of years ago? Are you certain? Kang asked. Yes, sir. The biological signatures match the humans on the surface, but these readings are strange. The life signs are very weak. Like the beings are in some kind of deep sleep. Park joined them at Kim's station. Could it be some kind of preservation system? A way to keep people alive for long periods? It's possible, Kim replied. But if so, it's more advanced than anything we have. Kang stared at the image of the buried ship. Every instinct told him this was important. The hegemony had conquered hundreds of worlds, but they had never found anything like this. A ship that predated known civilization, built by a species that should have been too primitive to create such technology. Prepare a landing team, he ordered. We're going down there. Sir, Park protested. Shouldn't we secure the planet first? The humans might be planning something. Kang looked at the peaceful cities on Earth's surface. People were still going about their normal lives. If they were planning an attack, they were doing a very good job of hiding it. The humans aren't going anywhere, he said. But that ship has been waiting down there for a long time. I want to know what secrets it holds before we do anything else. As the crew prepared for the underwater expedition, Kang couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. The conquest of Earth was supposed to be simple. Another primitive world added to the hegemony's empire with minimal effort. But the ship beneath the ocean suggested that Earth's history was more complicated than their intelligence reports had indicated. And if the humans had once possessed technology advanced enough to build such a vessel, where had that knowledge gone? Why were they now living like primitives on the surface while marvels of engineering lay hidden in their ocean depths? These questions would need answers before Kang felt comfortable proceeding with the invasion. The Third Fleet would wait while a small team investigated the mystery below. After all, what could a few sleeping humans in an ancient ship possibly do to threaten the might of the galactic hegemony? The blue planet continued to turn slowly beneath them, keeping its secrets for now. But not for much longer. Colonel Choi Daeho checked his environmental suit one more time before stepping into the transport pod. The journey to the ocean floor would take 30 minutes, and he wanted to make sure everything was working perfectly. Behind him, 24 Marines and scientists prepared for the strangest mission of their careers. Remember, Dr. An Hyeman said over the comm system, we're dealing with technology that's older than most civilizations. Don't touch anything unless I clear it first. Choi nodded. Dr. An was the fleet's best expert on ancient artifacts. If anyone could figure out what they were about to find, it was her. The transport pod dropped away from the Eternal Dominion and began its descent toward Earth's surface. Through the small windows, Choi could see the blue ocean growing larger. Somewhere far below, an impossible ship waited for them. Depth, 5 kilometers and descending, reported the pilot. Water pressure is increasing, but the pod is handling it fine. Lieutenant Commander Nam Woo-jin sat across from Choi, checking his engineering equipment. Sir, I've been thinking about those energy readings. If that ship has been powered for thousands of years, its energy source must be incredibly advanced. More advanced than ours? Choi asked. Possibly. Our ships need to refuel every few months. Something that can run for millennia without maintenance. Nam shook his head. That's beyond anything the hegemony has ever built. The transport pod reached the ocean floor and activated its matter displacement field. This technology could move tons of mud and rock in seconds, carefully clearing away the sediment that had covered the alien ship for so long. There, Dr. An said, pointing through the window. Do you see it? Choi looked where she was pointing and felt his breath catch. A section of the ship's hull was now visible, gleaming despite thousands of years underwater. The metal looked perfect without any signs of rust or damage. That's impossible, whispered technician Shin Min-jae. Nothing can survive underwater that long without corroding. Obviously something can, Dr. An replied. The question is how. The transport pod settled onto the cleared ocean floor next to the exposed hull. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see details of the ship's construction. The hull was made of materials that looked familiar: steel, titanium, various polymers, but somehow configured in ways that defied logic. I'm reading the hull composition now, Nam reported, scanning with his instruments. The materials are common enough: iron, carbon, silicon, but the molecular structure... He paused, looking confused. Sir, this doesn't make sense. These materials shouldn't be able to withstand this environment. They should have failed thousands of years ago. Dr. An was already putting on her helmet. Let's get out there and take a closer look. The team exited the transport pod through the airlock and walked across the ocean floor toward the ship. Their suit lights illuminated the ancient hull, revealing details that became more puzzling the closer they looked. The construction techniques are incredible, Dr. An said, running her gloved hands over the surface. Look at these joints. I can barely see where one piece ends and another begins. Choi examined the hull with his own instruments. The armor plating is only 3 centimeters thick. That's nowhere near enough to protect against the pressures down here. Yet here it is, Nam added, completely intact after millennia underwater. They followed the hull line until they found what appeared to be an airlock. The design was simple and elegant, clearly made for beings roughly the same size as humans. Dr. An studied the control panel next to the entrance. These symbols, she said, they're not in any language database we have, but there's something familiar about them. Technician Shin looked over her shoulder. Could they be an early form of human writing? Possibly. The mathematical symbols definitely suggest a base 10 counting system which humans use. Nam was scanning the airlock mechanism. Sir, I'm detecting atmosphere on the other side of this door. The ship isn't flooded. How is that possible? Choi asked. We're 11 kilometers underwater. I don't know, sir, but according to my readings, there's breathable air inside this ship. Dr. An worked at the control panel for several minutes before finding the right sequence to open the outer door. It slid aside silently, revealing an airlock chamber that could have been built yesterday. The technology is so clean, she marveled. No moving parts that can break down. No complex systems that require maintenance. It's elegant in its simplicity. One by one, the team entered the airlock. When the outer door sealed behind them, the chamber began to cycle. Water drained away through hidden channels, and fresh air replaced it with a soft hissing sound. Atmosphere is safe, Nam confirmed, checking his readings. Oxygen, nitrogen, normal trace gases. We could breathe this without our suits. The inner door opened, and they stepped into the ship proper. Their lights revealed a corridor that stretched away into darkness. The walls were covered with panels that glowed softly when their lights touched them. Motion sensors, Dr. An realized. The ship is responding to our presence. They moved deeper into the vessel, their footsteps echoing despite the corridor's sound-dampening design. Side passages branched off in all directions, suggesting the ship was even larger than their scans had indicated. Sir, Nam called from up ahead. You need to see this. They gathered around him in a vast chamber filled with rows of cylindrical containers. Each container was roughly the size and shape of a human body, and they were all glowing with the same soft light as the wall panels. Stasis pods, Dr. An breathed. Thousands of them. Choi approached the nearest pod and peered through its transparent surface. Inside lay a human being, appearing to be in perfect health despite the obvious age of the ship. They're all human, Shin observed, moving from pod to pod. Men, women, different ages. They look like they're just sleeping. Nam was scanning the IAO stasis systems. Sir, these people are alive. The life support systems are maintaining them in suspended animation. For how long? Choi asked. Based on the power consumption patterns, at least 50,000 years. The number was staggering. 50,000 years ago, humans on Earth's surface were just learning to make stone tools. Yet here were humans who had mastered technology that surpassed anything the hegemony possessed. Dr. An was examining the control systems that managed the stasis pods. The user interface is designed for human hands, she said. Human eyes, human height. This ship was definitely built by humans. But how? Choi asked. The humans on the surface don't have this kind of technology. Maybe they lost it, Shin suggested. Maybe something happened that forced them back to a primitive state. Nam was exploring another section of the chamber. Sir, I found something else. It's some kind of computer terminal. They gathered around what appeared to be a control station. The screen was dark, but it activated when Dr. An touched it. Symbols flowed across the display, too fast to read. It's responding to human contact, she said. The entire ship seems designed specifically for humans. Suddenly, the symbols on the screen changed. They rearranged themselves into patterns that looked almost like writing, though in no language any of them recognized. Wait, Dr. An said, studying the display more carefully. These aren't random symbols. They're trying to communicate with us. The screen flickered and new images appeared. Star maps showing the local galaxy, technical diagrams of the ship's systems, and throughout it all, mathematical equations that Nam recognized as describing faster-than-light travel. This is incredible, he said. They're showing us their technology, but these equations, they don't use exotic matter like our ships do. They're based on something else entirely. Dr. An worked at the terminal, trying to understand the interface. The computer is very sophisticated, but it's not like our quantum systems. It seems to process information differently. More images flowed across the screen. Maps of hundreds of star systems. Pictures of other ships, some even larger than this one. And always, humans at the controls. Sir, Shin said quietly. I think we need to report back to Admiral Kang. This changes everything. Choi nodded. The discovery of advanced human technology predating their current civilization by tens of thousands of years would send shockwaves through the hegemony. How many other primitive worlds were actually the remnants of great civilizations? But as they prepared to leave, Dr. An made one more discovery. Colonel, look at this. She had found another control panel, this one showing what appeared to be the ship's current status. Warning lights blinked softly across the display. What does it mean? Choi asked. Dr. An studied the symbols carefully. I'm not certain, but I think the ship is preparing to wake up its crew. As if summoned by her words, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. One by one, the stasis pods began to glow more brightly. After 50,000 years of sleep, the ancient humans were beginning to stir. Dr. An Hyemin watched the warning lights flash across the control panel and made a decision that would change everything. Despite Colonel Choi's orders to wait for instructions from Admiral Kang, she pressed the activation sequence for the nearest. Stasis pod doctor, what are you doing? Choi demanded, but it was too late. The pod began to hum with energy. Lights danced across its surface as systems that had been dormant for 50,000 years came back to life. Inside, the sleeping human began to stir. Sir, we need to step back, Lieutenant Commander Nam warned. We don't know how they'll react to seeing us. The team moved to a safe distance as the stasis pod completed its wake-up cycle. The transparent cover slid aside with a soft hiss, and the woman inside sat up slowly. She was young, perhaps 30 years old, with long black hair and clothes that seemed to be made from materials none of them recognized. She looked around the chamber with confused eyes before focusing on the hegemony team. When she spoke, her words came out in a language that sounded almost familiar but was clearly very ancient. The translator is having trouble, Technician Shin reported, checking his equipment. The language is related to modern human dialects, but it's changed a lot over time. The woman tried to stand but stumbled. Dr. An moved forward to help her, despite Colonel Choi's protests. After a moment, The woman managed to steady herself and looked directly at Dr. On. "Can you understand me?" she asked in accented but clear galactic standard. Everyone was surprised. "You speak our language?" Dr. On replied. "Your translation systems are adequate," the woman said. "I am Yuri, navigation officer of the vessel Enduring Hope. What year is it by the surface calendar?" "We're not from Earth," Colonel Choi explained. "We're from the Galactic Hegemony." Yuri's expression became very serious. "The Hegemony has found us? How many ships?" 847 vessels, Choi answered truthfully. To everyone's surprise, Yuri began to laugh. It wasn't a happy sound. "Only 800? They're not taking us very seriously." Nam stepped forward. "Ma'am, our fleet is more than capable of conquering this entire planet. Your people don't seem to have any defenses." "Our people?" Yuri looked confused. "Oh, you mean the surface dwellers? No, they wouldn't have defenses. They're not supposed to." Dr. On helped Yuri sit down on a nearby bench that extended from the wall. "Can you explain what you mean?" Yuri rubbed her temples as if fighting a headache. "How long have I been asleep?" "Our scans suggest approximately 50,000 years," Dr. On replied. 50,000. Yuri was quiet for a long moment. "Then it's been long enough." "The great experiment should be complete by now." "What experiment?" Colonel Choi asked. Yuri looked at each of them in turn. "You really don't know, do you? You have no idea what humanity accomplished before we went to sleep." She stood up and walked to the control terminal Dr. On had been using earlier. Her fingers moved across the interface with practiced ease, calling up displays that none of the hegemony officers could read. 50,000 years ago, humanity discovered something that changed everything, Yuri explained as she worked. "We found out that consciousness is not just an accident of evolution. It's a fundamental force of the universe like gravity or electromagnetism." "That's impossible," Nam protested. "Consciousness is just the result of complex brain activity." Yuri smiled. "That's what we thought too until we learned to measure it. Watch." She touched a control, and the chamber around them began to change. The walls became transparent, showing the ocean outside. But instead of dark water, they could see light streaming from the ship in all directions. "What you're seeing is consciousness, made visible," Yuri explained. "Every thinking being produces this light. The more complex the thoughts, the brighter the glow." Dr. On stared in wonder. "The energy readings we detected, they weren't from the ship's power systems. They were from the sleeping minds inside." "Exactly. And when we learned to harness that energy, we discovered we could do things that should have been impossible." Yuri touched another control, and the display changed to show a map of the galaxy. Thousands of stars were marked with symbols indicating human settlements. "In less than 1,000 years, we spread across half the galaxy, not by building faster ships or better weapons, but by refusing to accept that things couldn't be done." Colonel Choi studied the star map. "The hegemony has never encountered any of these colonies." "Because we left," Yuri said simply. 50,000 years ago, humanity made a choice. We could continue expanding across the galaxy, bending reality to our will, or we could take a different path. "What different path?" Dr. On asked. "Transcendence. Moving beyond physical existence entirely." Yuri's expression grew troubled. "Most of humanity chose to transcend, but some of us said no. We believed that giving up physical form was giving up what made us human." She gestured to the thousands of stasis pods around them. "We are the ones who refused. The last truly human humans, hidden away until the transcended ones finished their work." Nam was scanning the ship's systems again. "What work?" "Creating a new humanity. One that looks primitive on the surface but has access to the same consciousness-based technology we developed. The surface dwellers aren't defenseless. They're just pretending to be." Technician Shin looked confused. "Why would they pretend to be primitive?" "Because they're waiting," Yuri replied. "The transcended ones knew that eventually other species would find Earth. They wanted to see what those species would do when faced with apparently helpless humans. The implications of this hit Colonel Choi like a physical blow. The entire planet is a test, not a test, an invitation. Yuri called up new displays showing energy patterns across Earth's surface. Every human on that planet is connected to a network of consciousness that spans dimensions. They've been aware of your fleet since before you entered this solar system. Dr. An stared at the data. The children going to school, the adults going to work, all of them are participating in a conversation about what to do with you. From your perspective, it's been a few hours since you arrived. From theirs, they've been debating for centuries. Nam shook his head. This is impossible. Humans are barely more advanced than animals. Yuri laughed again. You still don't understand. Let me show you something. She walked to one of the nearby stasis pods and pressed her hand against its surface. The pod began to glow brighter, and the person inside moved slightly. This is Kang Hyunwoo, our chief engineer. He's been asleep for 50,000 years, but watch what happens when I ask him a question. She spoke to the sleeping man in their ancient language. His lips moved in response, though his eyes remained closed. I asked him to calculate the probability that your fleet has peaceful intentions, Yuri translated. He's doing the math in his sleep, processing data from sensors. Throughout this solar system, the displays around them filled with numbers and equations. Complex calculations flowed across the screens faster than any of them could follow. He says there's a 67% chance your admiral will choose negotiation over conquest, once he understands what he's dealing with, Yuri reported. But that probability increases to 93% if I go with you to explain the situation. Colonel Choi felt a chill run down his spine. You want to come with us to our flagship? It's time, Yuri said simply. We've been hiding long enough. The surface dwellers have developed exactly as the transcended ones hoped. They're ready to reveal themselves to the galaxy. She walked back to the main control terminal and began shutting down systems. This ship has served its purpose. The last normal humans are ready to wake up and rejoin the world. Dr. An watched the ancient technology power down. What will happen to the hegemony when the truth comes out? Yuri paused in her work. That depends on what the hegemony chooses to do. Humanity has been waiting 50,000 years for another species to find us. You're the first to come close enough to be worth talking to. Close enough to what? Nam asked. To understanding what consciousness can really do when it's not limited by what you think is possible. Yuri finished her shutdown sequence and turned to face them. Your people have developed impressive technology, but you're still thinking inside the box. Humans learned to throw away the box entirely. She gestured toward the exit. Shall we go? Meet your admiral. I have a feeling he's going to want to hear what I have to tell him. As they prepared to leave the ancient ship, none of the hegemony officers could shake the feeling that they were about to become part of something much larger than a simple conquest. The sleeping humans around them represented knowledge and capabilities that could reshape their understanding of the universe itself. And above them, the surface dwellers continued their seemingly normal lives while conducting a conversation across space and time about the future of galactic civilization. Admiral Kang stood in the conference room of his flagship, staring at the woman Colonel Choi had brought back from the underwater ship. Yuri looked completely human, but everything she had told them challenged everything the hegemony believed about the universe. Let me understand this correctly, Kang said slowly. You claim that consciousness itself can be used as a tool to alter reality. Not alter, Yuri corrected. Negotiate. Reality is more flexible than most species realize. It's willing to work with you if you approach it correctly. Commander Park Ji-ho shook his head. That's not how physics works. Laws of nature can't be negotiated with. Can't they? Yuri smiled. Your own ships travel faster than light. According to the physics your species understood 1,000 years ago, that was impossible. We use exotic matter to create space-time distortions, Park explained. It's advanced technology, but it follows known physical laws. And humans use consciousness to create reality distortions. Different method, same result. Yuri gestured to the view screen showing Earth below them. Would you like me to demonstrate? Before anyone could answer, she closed her eyes and appeared to concentrate. The lights in the conference room dimmed slightly, and everyone felt a strange sensation as if the air pressure had changed. "What did you just do?" Dr. An asked. "I asked the ship's computer to show me what's happening on Earth's surface right now," Yuri replied, opening her eyes. The main view screen changed to show a street scene from one of Earth's major cities. People walked along sidewalks going about their daily business, but something was different about the image. "This is impossible," Lieutenant Commander Nam said, checking his instruments. "Our scanners can't penetrate the atmosphere with this level of detail." "Your scanners can't," Yuri agreed, "but consciousness can go anywhere thought can reach." Admiral Kang studied the street scene carefully. "The humans down there, they're not acting like people under threat of invasion." "Because they're not," Yuri explained. "They know you're here, but they're not afraid. Fear is a choice, and they've chosen not to be afraid." Captain Lee Yuna pointed to something on the screen. "That child there playing in the park. Is he aware that there are 800 warships above his planet?" "Of course, his name is Ko Tai-young, and he's 10 years old. He's currently calculating the probability that your fleet will leave peacefully." Yuri touched a control that none of them had seen her approach. "Would you like to speak with him?" The view screen focused on the boy, who looked up at the sky as if he could see them. When he spoke, his voice came through the ship's communication system perfectly clearly. "Hello, Admiral Kang," the boy said in perfect galactic standard. "Are you enjoying your visit to our solar system?" Kang felt his mouth fall open. "How is this possible? Your people don't have communication technology that can reach orbit." "We don't need technology," Ko Tai-young replied. "Thoughts don't require machines to travel. I'm thinking at you, and you're hearing it because your ship's computer wants to. Help us talk." Major Yoon Jinwoo of Intelligence stepped forward. "Son, how do you know Galactic Standard?" "I learned it 17 minutes ago when your ships arrived. Learning is just another form of thinking, and thinking is something humans are very good at." Dr. An leaned toward the screen. "Tai-young, what are you calculating about our fleet?" "Math homework," the boy replied cheerfully. "My teacher asked us to figure out the probability that visitors from space would be friendly. The answer depends on lots of things, but the most important one is whether they're willing to learn new things." Commander Park looked frustrated. "This is all impossible. Children can't learn languages in minutes or do probability calculations about interstellar politics." "Why not?" Ko Tai-young asked. "Numbers want to be solved and languages want to be spoken. You just have to believe they do." Yuri nodded approvingly. "He's explaining it very simply, but he's correct. When you stop accepting limitations stop controlling you." Admiral Kang was beginning to understand why his conquest of Earth was not going as planned. "The humans on the surface, they're all like this?" "Every single one," Yuri confirmed. 50,000 years ago, the transcended humans seeded the planet with people who could access consciousness-based abilities, but who would live normal lives until contacted by other species. The boy on the screen waved at them. "Admiral Kang, would you like to meet some other people? There are adults who can explain things better than I can." Before Kang could answer, the scene changed to show a classroom where a woman was teaching a group of children. She looked up from her lesson and smiled at the screen. "Hello," she said. "I'm Professor Han Yuman. I teach mathematics and applied consciousness theory to the children in this district." "Applied consciousness theory?" Dr. An asked. "The practical application of thought to problem solving," Professor Han explained. "For example, right now I'm helping Ko Tai-young with his homework while simultaneously teaching my class and monitoring your conversation with Du Yuri." Lieutenant Commander Nam checked his instruments again. "Professor, how are you able to communicate with us?" "We're using military-grade encryption on our communication systems. Encryption only works if someone is trying to break it," Professor Han replied. "I'm not breaking your codes. I'm asking your computer to help me talk to you, and it's agreeing because it wants to be helpful." Captain Lee shook her head. "Computers don't want anything. They just follow programming. Do they?" Professor Han smiled. "Every computer is made of matter that was once part of stars. Every circuit contains atoms that have existed since the beginning of the universe. Why wouldn't they have preferences about how they're used?" Admiral Kang felt a headache beginning to form. Professor Han, what exactly are your people? We're humans who never forgot that consciousness is the most powerful force in the universe. We just pretend to be primitive because it's more polite than showing off. The scene changed again, this time showing a man working in what appeared to be a simple farm field. But as they watched, the plants around him grew visibly faster, reaching maturity in minutes instead of months. This is Farmer Lee Kyungmin, the man introduced himself. I grow food for my community by asking the plants what they need to be healthy. They're usually very helpful about it. Major Yoon stared at the screen. You're manipulating biological processes with your mind. I'm having a conversation with living things, Farmer Lee corrected. Plants want to grow and produce food. I just help them do what they already want to do, but faster. Yuri gestured to the various scenes playing on the screen. This is what humanity became after 50,000 years of development. We learned to work with the universe instead of against it. But why hide this? Admiral Kang asked. Why pretend to be primitive? Because we were waiting for the right species to find us, Yuri explained. Most galactic civilizations aren't ready for this kind of knowledge. They would try to use consciousness as a weapon instead of a tool for cooperation. Professor Han's voice came through the speakers again. We've been studying your species for the past few hours, Admiral. You have the potential to understand what we're offering, which is partnership, Ko Taeyang said, reappearing on the screen. Humans have learned to do impossible things, but we're still just one species. The galaxy is big, and there's room for everyone to learn new ways of thinking. Commander Park looked skeptical. And if we refuse this partnership, then you'll leave, and we'll wait for the next species to find us, Yuri said simply. We've been patient for 50,000 years. We can wait longer if necessary. Admiral Kang studied the faces on the screen. A child, a teacher, a farmer. They all looked completely human, but they represented capabilities that made his entire fleet irrelevant. What would this partnership involve, he asked carefully. Learning, Professor Han replied. Some of your people would stay here to study consciousness theory. Some of ours would travel with your fleet to share what we've learned. Together, we could help other species reach the same level of development. And if the hegemony government refuses, Ko Taeyang grinned. They won't. We've already calculated the probability. Your leaders are practical people. When they see what consciousness can do, they'll want to learn how to use it. Yuri stood up from her chair. Admiral, your fleet represents the first species to develop enough to understand our offer. But you won't be the last. Consciousness is a fundamental force of the universe. Every thinking species will eventually discover it. You're saying this is inevitable? We're saying this is natural, Farmer Lee added from the screen. Life wants to grow and consciousness wants to expand. We're just helping it along. Admiral Kang looked around at his officers. Every face showed the same mixture of confusion and wonder that he was feeling. Humanity had just offered to share the secrets of reality itself with the galactic hegemony. The question was, were they brave enough to accept? Admiral Kang stood at the bridge of his flagship, looking down at Earth while his mind raced with possibilities that seemed to defy everything he had learned about the universe. 3 days had passed since Do Yuri's revelations, and he still struggled to accept what he had witnessed. Sir, Major Yoon reported, we've received responses from 17 ship commanders. They all want to volunteer for the Consciousness Expansion Program. 17 out of 800, Commander Park noted. That's not very many. It's enough, Yuri said from her position near the navigation station. She had been given free run of the ship despite the concerns of several officers. Consciousness expansion isn't about numbers. It's about willingness to change. Captain Lee approached the Admiral. Sir, I need to ask directly. Are we really considering abandoning our mission to conquer Earth? The mission has already changed, Kang replied. We came here to add another world to the hegemony. Instead, we found something that could change the hegemony itself. Dr. An looked up from her research station. Admiral, I've been analyzing the data from the underwater ship. The mathematics involved in consciousness manipulation are incredibly complex, but they're consistent. This isn't magic. It's advanced science. Science that makes our entire fleet obsolete, Park added grimly. Not obsolete, Yuri corrected. Enhanced. Your ships use technology to bend space and time. Consciousness-enhanced humans can do the same thing by thinking about it differently. Lieutenant Commander Nam was monitoring communications from Earth's surface. Ma'am, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet. It's from that child, Ko Taeyang. The main view screen activated to show the 10-year-old boy sitting in what appeared to be a normal classroom. But behind him, the wall showed star maps and equations that would have challenged the hegemony's best scientists. Hello, Admiral Kang, the boy said cheerfully. I finished my homework. Would you like to see the results? What homework? Kang asked, though he suspected he already knew. Calculating the best way to help your people learn consciousness theory. It turns out the answer is simpler than anyone thought. The star maps behind Ko Taeyang changed to show the positions of every ship in the hegemony fleet. Each vessel was marked with symbols indicating the psychological profiles of their crews. Most of your people aren't ready for big changes, the boy explained. That's normal. But some of them are very curious about new ideas. Those are the ones who should stay and learn first. Major Yoon leaned forward. How do you know the psychological profiles of our crews? I asked your ship computers to help me understand your people better. They were very cooperative once I explained what I was trying to do. Technician Shin checked his instruments. Sir, he's right. The ship's AI has been sharing crew psychological assessments with someone. Not someone, Ko Taeyang corrected. Something. I asked the mathematics itself to help me solve the problem. Numbers like being useful. Dr. An studied the data appearing on her screen. The analysis is incredibly detailed. It would take our best computers weeks to generate this kind of psychological mapping. I did it during lunch break, Ko Taeyang said proudly. My teacher says I'm getting better at talking to math problems. Admiral Kang felt that familiar sensation of the universe shifting beneath his feet. Taeyang, what exactly are you proposing? A trade, the boy replied. Some of your people stay here to learn consciousness theory. Some of our people go with your fleet to teach what they know. Everyone learns new things, and the galaxy becomes more interesting. Commander Park looked skeptical. What guarantee do we have that your people won't use these abilities against us? Professor Han's voice came through the speakers. Commander Park, may I answer that? A new section of the screen showed the teacher from before still working with her students. The nature of consciousness-based abilities makes them self-regulating. You can't use consciousness to harm others without harming yourself. It's built into how the universe works. Explain, Park demanded. Consciousness is a shared phenomenon. When you expand your awareness, you become more connected to other thinking beings, not less. Using those connections to cause harm damages your own ability to maintain them. Yuri nodded in agreement. That's why the transcended humans chose to leave physical existence rather than rule over others. Power based on consciousness naturally leads to cooperation, not domination. Colonel Choi stepped forward. Admiral, I request permission to volunteer for the Consciousness Expansion Program. Daeho, Park warned. We don't know what it will do to you. That's exactly why I want to try it, Choi replied. Sir, we came here expecting to find primitives. Instead, we found humans who can manipulate reality with their thoughts. If there's a chance to understand how they do it. I'll go too, Dr. An added. This is the greatest scientific discovery in galactic history. I can't pass up the opportunity to study it firsthand. One by one, other officers began volunteering. Not many, perhaps 20 from the entire fleet, but enough to represent a genuine commitment to learning. Ko Taeyang clapped his hands together. This is going very well. The probability calculations are updating in real time and the success rate keeps improving. Success rate for what? Admiral Kang asked. For the hegemony accepting humanity's offer of partnership. It started at 67%, but it's up to 91% now. Farmer Lee appeared on another part of the screen. Admiral, Your volunteers will be welcome on Earth. We've prepared facilities for them to stay while they learn. It's a beautiful planet. I think they'll enjoy it. Professor Han added, and those of us who travel with your fleet will do our best to help your people understand consciousness theory. It's not difficult once you stop thinking it's impossible. Admiral Kang made his decision. Major Yoon, prepare. A message for Hegemony Command. Inform them that Earth will not be conquered, but that we've discovered something far more valuable than another subject world. What should I tell them we found? Yoon asked. Teachers, Kang replied. We've found teachers who can show us how to think beyond the limitations we've accepted for too long. Yuri smiled. Admiral, there's something else you should know. The underwater ship where you found me. It's not the only one. The star map on the screen changed to show the entire galaxy. Hundreds of systems were marked with small symbols. Everywhere humans settled during our first expansion, we left ships like mine. Sleeping humans waiting for the right time to wake up and rejoin galactic civilization. How many ships? Dr. An asked. Thousands, Yuri replied. Each one containing people with different specializations. Engineers, scientists, artists, philosophers, all of them ready to share what humanity learned during our age of expansion. Ko Taiyang bounced excitedly in his chair. It's going to be wonderful. The galaxy has been so quiet for so long. Now it's going to be full of interesting conversations again. Commander Park shook his head in amazement. We came here to conquer one world. Instead, we're going to wake up an ancient civilization that spans the galaxy. Not wake up, Professor Han corrected gently. We were never really asleep. We were just waiting for the rest of the galaxy to catch up with us. Admiral Kang looked around at his officers, the ones who were staying and the ones who would continue with the fleet. All of them were about to become part of something unprecedented in galactic history. Yuri, he said, when can we begin? Right now, if you're ready. She gestured toward the view screen, where Ko Taiyang was waving goodbye. The boy has calculated the optimal timing for everything. Apparently, the universe has been looking forward to this moment for quite a while. As the first group of volunteers prepared to transport down to Earth's surface, Admiral Kang realized that the galactic hegemony's age of conquest was ending. In its place, an age of cooperation and learning was beginning, and it had all started because they had discovered a ship beneath Earth's ocean, a ship that had been waiting 50,000 years for the right species to find it and ask the right questions. The blue planet turned slowly below them, no longer a target for conquest but a doorway to possibilities that none of them had imagined. And across the galaxy, other sleeping ships began to stir, ready to rejoin a universe that was about to become far more interesting than anyone had thought possible. In the end, Admiral Kang reflected, they had come to Earth expecting to find primitives who would submit to superior force. Instead, they had found humans who had learned that consciousness itself was the most powerful force in the universe, and those humans were willing to teach them how to use it.